Fair Association. What the heck did I do? Facilities. Extension. That's not right.
Remember, the fair is separate from the 4-H.
Yeah.
4-H and fair aren't the same.
Okay. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Don't make that mistake more than twice.
However they send it in.
So we have to have two separate hearings for that?
Of course.
Now, it's one hearing, but,
No, the fair board.
oh, the
is-
fair board, yes.
And then 4-H.
4-H is part of the extension
Extension.
office.
Yep.
Facility
Yes.
management.
So yes, they do, but
Oh.
the extension office will cover the 4-H part.
Yeah.
Trash. All right. Are we ready
Hope so.
I'm ready.
with a capacity crowd?
Yeah. Hi, Tim. Bill Kroll, Facility Maintenance Director with 2021 Facilities Budget Request. Give you a brief overview of the department. We're only 5 people strong, but we have responsibilities for the courthouse, the North Annex, the Extension Office, Manor Conference Center, the Elections Office, the little fire station that right now is being used as a headquarters for the McCown Gordon Group that's doing the Stormont Vale Center, as well as we support Parks and Rec, Public Works. We've done work at the district shops for Public Works, the golf courses, a couple of the rec centers. We all try to pitch in and help, so, as well as corrections from time to time as well, so.
Bill, we had the elections office this morning, and elections went through the costs of maintaining their building. Can you just take just a quick second and clarify, when you say you oversee the facilities for the elections, how that exactly works out?
Well, one of the things that we've tried to do, and Betty's spearheaded a lot of this, is if you have your own building like Elections does, that they're responsible monetarily for making sure that that building is taken care of. We will supply them the physical labor support to do a lot of that labor if they need it in-house. I know Elections did go ahead and get a contract with Samco for their air conditioning units, so that contract comes out of their budget, not out of the not out of the facilities budget. So each one of those entities, if they do have their own building, is responsible for that building. The exception to that really is Manor Extension to a degree, because Manor and Extension are kind of tied together on some of their main systems. And the little fire station, they don't have any independent budgets for those locations. So, but Manor, we're taking the rent money paid from us by the hotel now. It's set into a special fund to help offset the cost of the maintenance at the Manor Conference Center. So the budget in front of you primarily is North Annex and Courthouse supplies, services that we take care of on a day-to-day basis.
But if, like, the election commission was in need to have gutters cleaned out, would you guys?
That's us. Yeah, we come out on the ladders and clean them out. We were changing the filters and doing the maintenance to their air conditioning units, but they elected to do that themselves. For the elections office, I guess that was okay for them to elect to do that themselves, so. No pun intended, it just popped out. So,
Another thing that came up this morning was flushing out that line, that sewer line.
yeah, we're doing that.
You do have that set up?
Yeah, we've got that on a schedule where once a month we're dumping about 1,000 gallons of water through that line to give it a good flush.
They did not seem to be aware that you were doing that. Can you make sure that they know those days that you come out?
Sure.
And do that?
Sure. We're actually scheduled to do it again this week, so
Okay.
I'll give them a shout and we'll make sure it happens.
Okay.
Our budget for 2021, actually, for the salaries, as you might see, is going down a little bit. That's due to the pending retirement of John Telshaw from the North Annex. John's been with the county for a lot of years, so we should see a decrease in the salary necessary to help run that little operation out there. So the one that may be an increase that just kind of don't know yet because of the COVID, we might be increasing our custodial services fees as we move forward. I had that as a note on the side of the comment for contractual services as we move forward into 2021. Hopefully not. Hopefully this thing will, at some point, give up the ghost and we can go back to more of a normal life. But if not, we may have to continue to support additional cleaning for the COVID. And everything else is pretty much almost what it was a year ago, so I'm not really asking for anything more. So I don't know if you have any questions at that point. We could go into the capital stuff. So
How many staff do you have right now?
we have 5.
5? You're at full capacity right now?
We're at full capacity right
Yeah.
now,
Good.
with the exception of Tom this morning, who couldn't be here today because he lost a member of the family. His oldest dog died, so, and his wife, she's very, very emotional about that. So they're hopefully at Heavenly Pets now getting the ashes, so.
Yeah. Do you anticipate any big expenditures in this building, or?
The one for this year that we may experience, and it's at the top of my list for 2021 capital, would be the courthouse passenger elevator modernizations.
The what, excuse me?
Passenger elevator modernizations.
Okay, yeah.
That would be the biggest expense I think we'd probably see in 2021, and we're going to have some of that this year. Don't know how much yet, still trying to get some estimates, but one of the motor on elevator number 1, a DC motor, that weighs in the vicinity of 1,400 pounds, decided to give it up after 60 years. So I couldn't get Topeka Electric to come by last week to even look at it to see could they pull the armature out to decrease the weight so we could wrestle the thing out of there, or if they could perhaps wind it wherever the bad spot was on that armature or the windings, fix it in place. They refused to, so kind of back dealing with MEI this week to say, okay, what would it take to get the thing clear out of there? It's just going to be a real labor-intensive job. It looks to me like those main motors were put in before the roof was even put on the building. I imagine they used a crane, dropped them up into that penthouse, and they didn't leave a good way to get them out. There's just no way to even get a chain fall above one of them, let alone an eye hook on the motor to get a hold of, to get it up in the air and then just swing it onto a cart. But we're going to find out, and we'll find out probably in the next 2 weeks what it's going to take just on one of those motors, which will give us a better idea of what it might cost on the elevator modernizations, which I used $200,000 a piece based on the inmate elevator that we're in the process of starting right now. So figure times 3, the 200,000 would be around 600,000. I really don't know until we actually get the RFQ and RFP out on that. So that's going to be the biggest expense we'll have in 2021 if we elect to continue to kind of rely on these elevators to keep going up and down. But one of them has already said, nope, I'm done right now. So how far it's done, right now it's just the motor. The other components on it have been modernized about 30 years ago, but the motor wasn't replaced at that time.
Was
Is
it
it
number 2?
modernized if it was 30 years?
Well, it was modernized in 1992, so.
Wasn't elevator number 2 the one we had problems with last year?
Elevator 3 we had a lot of hiccups with. Elevator 1's the furthest one on the south, so when you
Okay.
don't see that one coming and going right now, it's because the motor, we've got it completely disconnected. We've just got to figure out how to get it off the frame and down to a motor shop. MEI's putting their thinking cap on to figure out, is it just going to be try to get 9 guys around it and lift it all at once, or is there a mechanical way where nobody can get hurt? If you guys want to look at it sometime and see the perplexing part of it, I'd be more than happy to show you. But it might be more difficult as we move down, because that's on the end, so it's the motor on the end, so it's probably the easiest one to get to. The other 2 are inboard of that, so you'd have to get those up and over the one we're trying to get out now. So it's we're gonna learn something.
Is the problem you can't get it from the top, or can you get it from the side?
You can't get it from the top, and if you try to get it from the side, you still gotta bring it west and then pivot it and then take it to the south to get around some of the other stuff that's in the way. And if there was just even an I-beam or something to grab above it, where you could put something and get it up in the air a little bit, figure we could swing it from there, but there's nothing to grab hold of. So it may just be a brute force thing, and Tom and I were even talking, do we call Brian at Corrections and see if there's some inmates that want to, make some extra money and try to wrestle the thing out of there. I don't know at this point.
They used to make things that you could roll up underneath a car, and you could pick up an engine. Would something like that?
No, because it's right, you go into the little penthouse area, then there's a ledge, and it's sitting on the ledge, so you only got about this much space
Oh,
on
yeah.
the south side of it to even start with. And then the motor itself is about that big around and about 4 feet long. So it's a large electric motor, and they didn't even, like I say, on big motors, usually you have an eye bolt or something sticking out where you can get a hold
Or
of
a
them
ring.
with a hook.
Yeah.
It's like, well, can we get the armature out of it and then maybe put a strap through the center of it? So we're figuring it out.
Bill, if you went back the way it went in and got a crane and pulled all three at the same time off the penthouse,
Well, if we did that, we'd have to take the roof of the penthouse off.
so I mean,
And that might be the
but to
ultimate
do all
thing to
three
do.
at the same time rather than trying to do one and spend a lot, all I hear is you're gonna spend a lot of time on one, and then you're gonna have to spend more time on the other two.
Yeah, once that day comes, yeah,
Are they all the same age?
yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah.
And so, again, you're basing that about $200,000, but the carrier itself
Mhm.
is still okay.
Yeah, actually, when PKMR looked at the inmate elevator, he looked at the other three, and he said, the machine itself looks, they still look almost new. They've been very well maintained over the years. But the motor that's doing all the grinding and spinning, it got tired. And it's definitely not the bearings in the motor, which, it's one of the things that you find is actually the older some of that stuff is, the better built it actually was to start with. The bearings are still strong. They've been lubed properly, but a little short in armature or winding, just a little burn spot, and it's keeping the thing from going up and down. But we're going to think about all those things, whether it's better to cut the roof off now and then put some kind of temporary roof up there so we can get to the other ones, because if it boils down to having a crane lift that one out, which definitely be the safest thing to do, but the crane would have to be located probably into the front parking lot, and it's going to be a big crane to get that out of there, and there'd be a lot of money just for that. So, but a one-time crane use versus 3 different times of getting a setup on a crane like that would probably be money well spent. So, but that's the big one for 2021 and a little bit of 2020. So I'll probably be coming back before you guys the next couple of weeks, looking for emergency funds or contingency to get that one going, if we want to try to keep it going. With 2 right now, we're okay, but 3, the difficulty being with 2 persons per car now with COVID, it's a lot more trips, so. Hate to be the bearer of bad news at this, but.
Well, we've been anticipating this now for 3 years.
We
Yeah.
have, and we do have some money set aside. Well, no,
Not
we're
really.
using that all for the
We're using it
inmate.
for the inmate elevator.
Never mind, we're using it all for the
Yeah.
inmate elevator.
And we should have all the materials in on that by the end of this month. So we should be able to get cooking and started on that one and have a better idea even. It's on the far north end, so we'll be on each end of the 2 in the middle. Passenger elevators would be the tricky ones to get to. But we're going to calculate and figure it out one way or the other. We don't have a choice, so we'll make it happen one way or the other.
some of our current projects, are they about finished out front, or?
Yeah, actually, I meet with Senny at 3 o'clock to do a final walkthrough on that. Greg Sims over at Slemons came through and gave them a punch list, so they decided not to open it while they had a punch list. which to me is silly. They could have opened it for traffic. I mean, the punch list stuff was clean this and
Yeah.
get that and get the dang fencing down and let people use it. So hopefully by the end of the day, the fencing will be gone and we'll be using that thing
Okay.
again, so.
In our parking lot in the back, it's
That's
completely
done and been open for a week. So
Okay.
that one's rolling along good.
All right.
They're working on the air conditioning control upgrades as we speak. Actually, told the integrated control guy, he's checking out Geyer's thing right now to see what kind of flow is going in there, and he'll get it adjusted. So
Okay,
as
great.
soon as I leave this meeting, I'll know more about that. Did have one that we put forward, an RFP, kind of dealing with COVID, that ties into one of my other capital requests for 2021, which was HVAC system testing and balancing, kind of recommissioning the system to make sure we have the cubic feet per minute of flow into each area that we should. In visiting with the engineer, PKMR, on that one, we were talking about the ultraviolet lights and increasing the filter capacity. One of the things that he mentioned was we probably want to go ahead and do the balancing with filter changes, because whatever filters you put in is going to cut down the amount of airflow that you have going to different locations, so you probably want to make sure you're getting everything that you can. So if we go ahead with that this year and all the improvements, once we get that RFP totally moving, I think we're going this week, Michelle's sending it out. We should have a better idea what it will cost us and whether we want to do it this year or postpone that into 2021. The ultraviolet light could be quite successful in stopping COVID from everything I've been hearing and reading about. So every little bit helps. And it would clean up the air and kill different mold spores and things no matter what. So, but the testing and balancing, we had about $75,000 for budget for that for next year. We may end up spending it this year, or we could probably just do it as we move forward into 2021. Courthouse steam trap repairs and modernization. Nothing has been done, and we're totally steam heated building here in the courthouse. Nothing has been done with the steam traps since the building opened in 1964. So I know we're wasting energy leaking steam by in a lot of locations. In our condensate return system, from time to time, we will definitely have steam spitting out of that system, which is telling me we're not holding that steam, doing its job 100%, heating an area. We're actually letting it bleed back into the condensate, which is, it's just energy inefficient, so.
In 2002, when they did the energy study on the building and they came through, the name of the company is
Chevron?
Chevron.
Mhm.
They didn't treat the steam traps at
Didn't.
that point?
Didn't do anything with the steam traps at all.
Okay.
Actually, they didn't do anything with the air handlers either. So it was, we got new chillers, new boilers, and new pumps out of it for the chilled water system, but they didn't do anything really with the steam side other than 2 new boilers.
Okay.
So,
I mean, 'cause I know that when Chevron came in, they did a lot, but they didn't do the steam traps.
nope. They were, and most of those companies will charge after what they call the low-hanging fruit, which always starts with lighting. Actually, they've been back since then and saying, you need to do away with your lighting. We got better lights now with LEDs. So, well, what Betty and I pretty much told them was, hey, when we get these paid off, we might come see you. So, but the steam traps primarily are in the air handlers. There's a few convector units, the small ones you see pretty much in the basement area along the baseboards. They'll have steam traps in those. We may be able to get by pretty inexpensively on repairs on those and rebuilds of those traps. Some of them are kind of difficult to get to, so they may be a little more expensive. But I put $75,000 in the budget for that, and I think we can easily hit that money or less than that.
You're
for
not doing the
2021.
traps when you do the pneumatics?
No, they're in kind of a separate area. The pneumatics will do away with any pneumatic controls we have left. The steam traps themselves are basically holding steam on the heat coil to get all the use out of that steam that we can before it turns to water and comes back to the system. So that's what I'm looking for at the steam traps. But the current thing that we're doing will eliminate pneumatics, which means we can eliminate our air compressor for this building. And that should occur later this month and into August once they get all that done. There's a couple that we might want to wait for the change of season, just so that there's no valve interruption when we actually need heat or cool, so.
Okay. Do we have any ADA issues yet in this building? Are we all caught up and?
No, with the biggest ADA issue we have right now is door locks.
Door locks.
We still have knob sets in a lot of locations. We don't have lever sets everywhere. Stairwell doors, pretty much now, if somebody was to really get excited, they could say you need push bars and lever sets on your stairwell doors. As I looked into that deeper, the problem we've got with our stairwell doors and a lot of the doors from the corridor to the office areas is if you look at the current lock sets, there's kind of an insert that basically eliminates the fire door capacity of that steel door because they did a cutout to get the current lock sets in there, the original ones. If you buy a lock set that can cover all that and keep its fire rating, just the lever set is about $800. Well, we can dang near buy a door for $800, so one of my thoughts was, do we just buy all new stairwell doors and start with stairwells? But I did put money into 2021 and 2022 for that, for ADA lever set installations at about $125,000 a year. We got the ones that we could get, the low-hanging fruit of lever sets in a lot of office areas on the interior. All the fourth floor and third floor courtrooms have been rekeyed from security standpoint and the ADA standpoint. So we're good on the courtroom areas, but as we get into the second floor, first floor, and the basement level, we're not ADA compliant with those lever sets yet. The rest of the building is pretty much ADA compliant now. The courts have a lot of ADA capability now that they never had before with the renovations of the various courtrooms and the judges' chambers. So I'm feeling pretty good. The front entrance now, the new sidewalks that we got up there with that entrance and the northwest lot were ramped in there properly. The last area that we might have to deal with would be the ramp on the employee entrance over here on the east side. It's not quite 12 to 1 as far as the input on it. It's real close, unless somebody actually probably came out with a level and said, hey, you're off a little bit. We may be a little bit out of compliance with that one. But the rest of the building, we're good for ADA. I feel good about it. Same at the North Annex. Once you start swinging the hammers is when they really get after you. But which one of the things that I had as a project was into the future, if we ever wanted to do something with the space planning study and start moving walls and some of the other things that we talked about with Brian Falk a few years ago, are we utilizing all of our space real efficiently? No. Is it worth spending a couple $100,000 to do that? That's for you guys to decide. But it would cost some money to throw walls up in different areas and make people's offices comfortable for them. And one of the tricky things, like we just talked about this morning a little bit individually, of redoing some of this area for the new employees coming in. Once you start moving walls, you got to make sure your airflow is still proper. That's a big, big one, because if you throw a wall up in a room and you don't have a return or supply air in there, they're not going to be very happy. And once you start moving walls, then you're into carpet. So one thing kind of snowballs into another, and it just gets a little bit more expensive as you move along. So keeping that one in mind, but we do have that going out in the future, a couple of years. I also want to make sure that we're at least aware of roofing. Our roofs are starting to show a little sign of wear and tear and age. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're probably going to be looking at re-roofing this building and Manor Conference Center. Manor especially, that's kind of a different roof out there. With your experience at Parks, you might know a little bit about that. But there was a lot of individual buildings that they essentially just put one big roof over the whole thing. So there's some low spots that probably shouldn't be there. The drain off is not as good as it should be in some spots. But if we want Manor to continue to be a viable location, we're probably going to have to put a roof on that. And that extends into the extension office. So it's kind of one thing leads to another. The roof at the north annex appears to be the best roof we probably have. So I'm knocking wood on that one to last us a few years, but have that going out into the future, as well as parking lot, mill and overlay. We have all the parking lots around the courthouse in really good shape now, except for the real small lot right on the corner at 6th and Monroe. There's a kind of a tiny lot here on the south side, on the east side of the street. That one we haven't overlaid yet. Public Works has filled a couple of the big potholes in it over the years when they've got some leftover material. So we're in pretty good shape on that one, but the next 2 to 5, we'll probably want to take care of that one. And I'm not sure if this would be out of our capital or not, but I told Don Bell when he went over to health that the health department, the main lot at the Lewis building, could probably use a mill and overlay in a couple of years. It's been sealed, so it shouldn't create any big problems. And the lot out at Manor is concrete, except where we've had to do some patches. So the Manor parking lot over to Ag Hall is all concrete and should last a lot longer than the Expo lot being asphalt even, so.
Bill,
Mm-hmm.
that small one that you were talking about on Monroe, who parks in that?
There's quite a few of the DA people that park there.
Okay. I didn't think it was just the regular
Yeah,
county employees.
Yeah, it's pretty much the DA's got, and I think there's only 12 spots in it. It's a real tiny lot.
Okay.
And in a push came to shove, yeah, they could always park down in the big lot on the other side of the street. I mean, that
Is
one,
that something that Public Works might be able to do?
you know, I haven't dealt with Kurt too much on that one. I
But
did with.
they like more big spaces, I think.
Yeah,
It's probably
with-
too small for them.
Yeah, for their equipment, it's just.
Probably too small,
For,
yeah.
for potholes, they can get in there and help us,
Yeah.
but, and it wouldn't be, based on the scope of what we've done on the other ones, a real expensive lot to do a little mill and overlay on it. It'd be just a little bit more labor intensive than it would be machinery, so. And then we were speaking of low-hanging fruit, the LED lighting, any upgrades we might want to do to this building in the future. If got that in, stringing out there, I think, starting in 2022. And that's really the capital stuff. We've taken care of a lot of things in the last 5 to 6 years, capital-wise, on this building. Our boilers are in pretty good shape. The chillers are in good shape. So are the pumps. The cooling towers, I might start putting our cooling towers on there next year, looking at about 5 years on our cooling towers. They're 20 years old, but I think we're going to be able to get 30 to 35 out of them based on the way they're holding up. That's another crane job, but, and then again, will this courthouse still be in operation 5, 10 years from now? I mean, that's anybody's guess too. So hopefully, because it's a solid old building. They don't build them like this anymore.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Bill.
You guys are sure welcome.
Thank you.
If something comes up, let me know.
Thanks for looking into that, Bill.
Yeah.